And we are live. So, welcome to episode 197 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got, coming back one more time, we've got Jay the Ref. And Jay is a professional wrestling referee who I believe has more than 1,000 matches to his credit. That is
1,200 by the end of the year.
1,200 by the end of this calendar year. That's a lot of wrestling. That's a lot of not being able to see when someone's cheating. That's a lot of getting knocked around.
I'm the world's worst referee. What is that? My wife calls me.
There's something going on in professional wrestling. The referees never seem to see any of the outside interference. They get knocked around a lot, and they miss a lot, but they're an essential part of professional wrestling, and we're glad to have them back.
The last show I did, I got knocked out 3 times in that show. So
you're gonna have to get checked for concussions, my friend.
Know.
I mean, this is not light work you're putting in here.
No.
And we've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here. Always good to hang out and talk some films. And this is a little different than what we usually do, although this channel does discuss professional wrestling, not as much as I would like, but right now my schedule is a little crazy, so I'm not able to do everything I'd like. But I think it was Eric. Who told me that Netflix was covering a series called Wrestlers. And I'm like, what the hell? And I look, and Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, now run by Al Snow, Hall of Famer Al Snow, trying to put together this financially struggling company with a lot of individuals, a lot of individual personalities. And as Al said, he has shit and he has to turn it into shoe polish. Yeah. That's his job pretty much every day.
Yeah, he said this is the Muppet Show and I'm Kermit the Frog.
That's exactly what he's doing. And God bless Al Snow. I'm a big fan, going back probably about 30 years. Seeing him do it just about everywhere and, just be entertaining and to be great. He still looks great.
Oh, yeah.
He was able to, well, let's not go too much into it. Everybody here has completed all 7 episodes. This show is now streaming on Netflix, all 7 seasons. Jay, without too much detail, give us your initial thoughts of Netflix Wrestlers. What did you think?
Yeah, see, I was dedicated. I was in Costa Rica, and I watched all 7 episodes, either in 2 or 3 nights. So I did my homework quick. So didn't lay by the pool and watch it, but I really liked it. From the the wrestling background, being in the locker room, I felt that it was very authentic, very real. There was a couple spots in there where I think that they were working the crew a little bit, especially the last episode. But I thought it was good, and I worked with one of the wrestlers, and his true character came out in the show. So,
can you tell us who it was?
Jake Lawless.
Who?
Jake Lawless. He was the one that got caught snorting the.
Whatever that was. Yeah.
One of the organizations I was working for, they decided to team up with 2 other groups where they would bring people in. They had like a belt that they would trade, and they could bring new talents in. And he came in and worked one time, and he was just very arrogant and cocky and wanted to do all things differently. And I was like, yeah, you're an asshole. And then I saw him in the show and that's really you right there. So.
Okay. Eric, what did you think of the documentary?
I really enjoyed it. I grew up, I was born in 81. So I'm an 80s and 90s kid. I've seen so many, in the true life of, professional wrestlers on MTV and VH1 and all that stuff. And now recently, going to like a lot of the local federations and stuff like that, I knew kind of how close knit the locker rooms were for the independent federations. You know what I mean? I knew somewhat of what goes into putting on a show, not just talent wise, but, taking care of the talent, making sure this works, that works. And then when I saw like what Al really has to do, not just, trying to wrangle all the crew members together, make sure they're not screwing around, make sure that they're there on time and this and that, but just the little things that can happen, not be, oh no, it's a live pay-per-view every week or live TV every week. We have no video. You know what I mean? That type of stuff. And I'm friends with one of the promoters here in the area, and I'm somewhat known. I know what goes into like financially. He's kind of struggling a little bit, seeing what Al has to do, to struggle financially and stuff like that, to put into the show. It made me appreciate it a lot more. I hate to say, people who aren't big names, you know what I mean? Or they used to be big names, the stuff that they have to do to survive outside of the wrestling business. And it was kind of cool seeing a couple people that I knew. I'm into the deathmatch stuff, so I did know who Amazing Maria was. I did know who Cash Flow was when he was a hell of a lot skinnier and had a much shorter hair. Cash Flow was the long-haired, the big guy, the locker room leader. So But overall, I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it a lot. I remember I texted Eric, and I just told Jay this. I watched one episode, and then I just finished them all yesterday.
Okay.
So the first episode, I remember texting you. I'm like, what the heck? I was sort of appalled, and I don't mean to be disrespectful at all, but I was sort of appalled at how dysfunctional I thought it was. I was like, what the hell is going? Like, it was just... And then, they started to get into it a little bit more because, like, I saw that like their world heavyweight champion, their heavyweight champion, Shera, was like driving for DoorDash.
Yep.
And I'm just like, what the hell is it? Because Eric has recently, within the past 2 months or so, really opened my eyes a bit to the independent circuit. He's gotten me an app on my TV called IWTV. Which is independent wrestling, and it must have 100 different promotions on there. And almost every, I didn't know, and almost every night of the week, somebody's wrestling somewhere. Almost, and it'll live stream. Like if there's a live stream, something happening that night, in these, smaller, buildings, so on and so forth. But you see these guys, and they're just going at it. Just giving their best, and it's a Monday night or it's a Tuesday night or it's a Thursday night. It doesn't really matter.
But the thing is, I remember most of those guys aren't making that much money when they're wrestling or making, getting a hot dog and a beer. So they all have to have full-time jobs to support themselves and try to wrestle on the weekends, keep training and, hope for that dream that somebody big time is going to pick them up.
You grab that brass ring, man. You might get lucky.
Yeah, a lot of it is.
Might see you.
A lot of people say, they get paid, and it immediately goes in the gas tank. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's basically for the experience and maybe like the notoriety to hopefully get a booking somewhere else. Especially when you first start.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that they said that they were getting paid gas. Basically, they were getting paid in gas money. That was about it, and that, they're trying to keep this, federation afloat that is famous for its alumni. You've got, John Cena, and you got Dave Bautista, and you got Brock Lesnar, all coming out of OVW.
Randy Orton.
Randy Orton, a couple other names. So, you would think that they would be a booming kind of organization, but it's not. But at the same time, it was also very inspiring because you could see that they had these loyal fans. These people that were part of this community, that just loved to turn out. And the one thing where the guy takes his daughter, Gracie, and Gracie knows all the wrestlers, and the wrestlers know Gracie, and she's trash talking them in the parking lot. That it's kind of a part of their lives, and that these people are doing it not like maybe WWE or AEW, they're doing it because it's their passion.
Yeah.
They're getting no financial recompense for this. They're getting hurt, they're injured, they're dinged up, they're away from their family. Even that one guy, I think Mike or Matt was his name, who was the announcer, he starts crying because he missed the hour he was supposed to spend with his son, and he has to call him on the phone because, I got an hour. And then he's like, I got 20 minutes, that what he's doing on the golf course, trying to, build the promotion. And before you know it, it's eaten the whole hour and he's missed. But I mean, they're doing it because they love it.
And that scene with Gracie and her dad and the wrestlers, that reminded me of my situation with my daughter with the local federation. Like, first time I went by myself. I've been a wrestling fan since like WrestleMania 6, and they're pushing WrestleMania 40. And then the next time, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna force my daughter to go. She didn't really give a shit, you know what I mean? She liked the Undertaker because I liked the Undertaker. She liked Kevin Owens because I like Kevin Owens. She put up with it. She was sitting there, but waiting for it. She's like, when is this over? This is boring. But by the time that first match hit, by the end of it, as we were walking out, she says, I can't wait to go again. So I've been 5 times. She's been 4 times. We're going again next month. And she's now a regular. The wrestlers know who my daughter is. They're former world champion. Like, he's her favorite wrestler of the federation. And now she's been dubbed his cheerleader. You know what I mean? At first she started his name's Damian Fenrir. She would cheer Damian. And then eventually, every time he's getting beat up, he would look at her. He would point. He would, do the thing with his hands to get her cheering again. And then the next time, he was slapping hands. He gave her a wink. And what was really cool is the last time we went, she's standing up there front row, hand out, and he looks at her. He's like, no, babe, you get a hug. And he hugged her, and you couldn't rip the smile off her face if you tried. And that's what I think is special. You know what I mean? Sure, sometimes, there's mistakes in the ring, all that stuff. It's the experience I'm having with my daughter that really makes me appreciate these indie feds and the way that they treat not just the fans, but the kids especially. You know what I mean? The asshole heels, when it's intermission, it's all gone. They're slapping hands and taking pictures like it's nothing, but it's back to work once that bell rings and they're insulting you and stuff like that. But it goes to show how much they really do appreciate, the local people and the people that are there every month.
I think it's go ahead, Jay.
I say at the same time, one of our wrestlers everybody loves him. He says, I could go out there and I could flirt with the hot moms and all those guys, but I go after kids because every one of them wants to buy a T-shirt.
Yep.
He said, I can sell more merchandise that way.
That happened. There's one guy who came out and he was insulting me and picking on me and stuff like that. And he tried to sell me like a goodie bag or whatever with his insignia. I'm like, I don't know if I want to, he kind of, picked on me. He's like, oh, I apologize. And then my daughter says, well, you know what? I like you because I like to boo you a lot. I bought her the little bag and he's like, okay, what if I'm your favorite bad guy? And she says, that's great. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of stuff, the interaction. That's great. And again, with the kids.
It's little things like if I'm doing accounting, of course, I never get to 3, and I'll go 1, 2. And fans
you got to work on that, Jay. Are you like a doctor? Didn't they give you some math classes or something?
I'm going to tattoo 3 on my wrist so I can go 1, 2, 3.
Just to know what it looks like. Yeah. Okay.
But I'll have people in the audience go, that was 3, and I'll just look at them and say, that was 2, and they just get the biggest kick out of that. I'm interacting with them, and they'll come up and say, "Thanks for making part of the show." I'm like, it just make you happy, so you come back again. So
exactly.
I think professional wrestling fans are as loyal and as rabid as fans of any other sport.
Mm-hmm.
The Sunday, the football people on Sunday, I enjoy a little football, but, or the NBA people or the NHL or the UFC or, the MMA fans, but professional wrestling fans, man. I mean, and I loved it that they started talking about it in terms of a morality tale. And I've heard this many times. It's good versus evil. And the lines are so clearly defined every single time you step into the ring, it's this like human Shakespearean drama, like betrayals, and the guy will turn heel or the girl, will turn heel, or there'll be a redemption arc, where he or she becomes a face again, these sorts of things. And, I think an old friend of mine used to call it a soap opera for guys. But I mean, the women are just as into it as, it doesn't really matter, They love it. It's fantastic. Now, one of the things that was unfortunate about it, and, I hate to say it, but it's the lack of the struggle of these organizations now that Vince has bought everything. And they don't directly get into that, but it's very difficult. It's like Vince, AEW, and then like there's this wide dispersion of indie federations with, it's very difficult to compete.
Well, I mean, that's what OVW used to be, like the training grounds for the people that went to WWE. And that's why you had Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton. I mean, Randy Orton's from St. Louis. He started his training here. I see his dad, Bob, all the time. And, they went to OVW, but now that WWE isn't taking, and they were helping, I think, fund OVW for some of this stuff.
Yeah, for a while, yeah.
With the NXT training center, then all of that extra money went away. So now OVW has become more of just an independent organization like the rest of us.
Yeah, it's just very local, just dependent on those loyal fans every month spending that money to come here. And then, you can tell, like, a lot of them, they're crushed. They're like, oh, like I said, I'm there. I've been there 5-6 times. I know a lot of the people that I've met, and a lot of the wrestlers, they'll be like, oh, Eric's not here. What's going on? That was $20. Not just, I'm not there, but that was $20. It's usually a guaranteed thing. And then it might not seem like a lot, but, I'm not going to say how much the owner of WCPW told me it takes to run a show, but $20 goes a long way for these independent once a month type of federations.
And the one thing we found in this past year is we started selling tickets for the next show during the show, because people get so worked up and they say, want to see how this is going to play out next month. Or if they have to like come the next month and buy their tickets, something like, I don't know if I'm going or not. So you just got to hook them and reel them in.
God bless Al Snow. Yeah. Trying to run creative, to generate these stories, that are going to, have, I mean, the documentary basically takes place over the course of a summer. And he's trying to build this big arc that will culminate in this final pay-per-view, that he's hoping will generate, enough money to keep them afloat. He's got these investors or co-owners or owners who know nothing about the wrestling business. And they're really interesting characters, because at first they start to come off kind of grating and abrasive, and, they're rubbing all the wrestlers the wrong way. And, Al is just, he's got a very flat sort of, behind the scenes. Yeah, he's got a poker face on all the time. But it was interesting to see Matt, I think his name was, and the other guy evolve.
It seemed like when the guy had his seizure, that everything sort of turned at that point. He let down that facade he had of being the big tough guy. He had to say, okay, I understand, and we can work together. And I think everybody then took it a little easier on him and to help him out and help him learn instead of being so abrasive against him.
I think that, I hate to say it because it was a seizure, but kind of like a blessing in disguise, because he was able to chill out a little bit. He knew he had to with the wrestlers, but then the wrestlers, especially the ones that were there with him, they realized, okay, he's got a lot of shit on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's really starting to affect his health, because if you think about it, sure, he's very successful with his radio show and, his place in that town, he's a local celebrity, but he's still losing what, $1,800 a month? Is that what it was?
It was $30K a month.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
He was losing $30K a month. So, I mean, he's He's got a lot of pressure on him too, and I think these guys didn't necessarily appreciate that as much as they should have.
They just saw him as some guy. Oh, yeah, you don't know shit about wrestling. Why are you telling us?
You're not my boss. Al's my boss.
Yeah, why are you telling us we got to go on tour? Why are we doing this and that? You don't know anything.
Yeah, and he's basically explaining how this guy like completely disrespected him to his face.
Yeah.
And the people in the meeting are telling him, well, next time just go to Al. They're kind of blowing it off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of what triggered the seizure.
Mm-hmm.
That he wasn't getting any sort of, support.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes either, from, the people that were, sort of at the management level. And then they were like, oh, okay, he really is.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody needs to dial it back.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit on this guy, and let's start, talking and communicating, because at the end of the day, it's not worth anybody's health.
Right.
I mean, it's a tough life.
Yeah.
It's a tough. I mean, just on the surface, before you start to get into personalities, and you can start to talk about Hollywood, because she's sort of the focus of the show almost as much as Al. They really did like zoom in on her and her relationship with Maria. But I mean, there's that one guy he's talking about, he hasn't seen his son in 3 months. His son is 15. He's playing football. He's missing all of that. His daughter's 8 years old. He's missing that. And it's difficult because, they're not getting paid Triple H money.
Right.
They're not getting paid, Dom Mysterio or Rhea Ripley, kind of money. They're just out there doing it because they love. It's like a wing and a prayer, kind of thing. And the whole, I guess you almost have to acknowledge that most of them probably aren't going to,
right,
get that big opportunity, and so.
And a good example is Amazing Maria and Cash Flow, who've been doing this for decades and decades. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they just love the business so much, and they want to give back to the business. There's a term, so much, and help the newer generation that they just can't stop doing it. They know they're not going to make a good amount of money. They know they're going to miss birthdays. They're going to miss anniversaries. They're going to, oh shit, I'm going to lose my $50 payday because my brakes went out on my car, that type of stuff. But they're still doing it because they've been doing, that's all they know. A lot of these guys.
And like, I think it was Cash Flow said, it's, when you walk into these big arenas, it's the adrenaline, it's the rush, people clapping and booing or whatever. I mean, even if you're in a room with, 20 people, you still get that rush. But when you get the, big time, it's there.
And I remember Cash Flow's wife saying, it's been 23 years. I say to myself sometimes, I've given enough. I'd like my husband back.
Yeah.
But, she's like, if I want my husband to be his best self, I have to let him do this, because it's like Al said, these guys, none of these people are wired, like they can't function in 9-to-5 life. I mean, they're like, probably one of the more adjusted people was the Shera guy. The champion, and he's driving for DoorDash, but he's like this real solitary.
Yeah.
He's like the solitary kind of sensitive, bear, and, I mean, most of these guys wouldn't make it in some sort of office environment.
No, you look at how much Holly Hood or whatever her name was struggling just to be like a barista at a hotel or whatever it was. You know what I mean? And she was just arguing with the crew members and her mom and all this stuff. You could tell this is not her life. You know what I mean? She needs to be doing something like wrestling because that's more of the active lifestyle. The seat of your pants type of stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that a lot of that was real, but I think some of her character was a work also. I think that they sort of used her as a focal point. So she may have been doing a little bit more acting there than we thought. I mean, especially at the end, because, they were building her up for the big final show. And then all of a sudden she's going to be out of, WOW and not make the last show. And and then at the end she does the running and saves day. So like that wasn't a last minute thing. They knew she was going to be back, so they worked us a little bit too.
Now wait a minute. Didn't Rod say it was part of our regular group, Jay? Didn't he say she just got picked up?
He said he's heard stories that they're looking into her because of the Netflix notoriety and the connection to Al Snow.
WWE, is looking at her right now, and that's sort of a rumor or whatever that happened on one of our texting groups. But I could see it. I mean, there's so much focus on her, and the people in creative must be like, I could do a fucking a million things with this.
And the thing is, the way the writing is they don't even need her as a wrestler. She can just be like a bitchy manager or something like that, or a little snot-nosed, fan or something like that. So, with the persona she gave in the show, they could do anything with her.
Yeah, I mean, because she's so unbalanced.
Mm-hmm.
In real life.
Mm-hmm.
That you could just take that and move it into a million straight jackets or whatever. I mean, here it kind of comes off as trailer trash kind of thing. That's the angle that they're working here. But then they took her and
yep,
and they made her like this competent mechanic.
Yeah.
And it's weird, but you're like, okay, she's not coming off as crazy. She's just a female who can do these sorts of things.
It's just being a good enough actor or actress where you can, disappear for a month and then come back and reinvent yourself as a whole new different character.
Yeah,
that's what they said. They said it's method acting.
Yeah,
it's method acting.
Mm-hmm.
So Jay, did you have a particular favorite character that you enjoyed, throughout the series? Any one particular person stuck out for you, aside from the guy who was, struggling with addiction?
I mean, I'm old school. It's just Al Snow. He was peak for me. Just him. I got to make this work. How are we going to do it? I got to deal with all these prima donnas that I got to push this person up, but then not make this other person go down too far, and then at the end, I got to come back and do this. And of course, I was glad that when he came out, I was like, "Where's Head? Where's Head?" And then Head was brought out in the end to help save the day. So it was just old school. But I mean, Haley, I loved her character, the feud she was having with her mom, and I mean, if she goes to WWE, her mom's going to be on there once in a while having a part with that too. So they can't keep her completely out of it. So
I was glad to see Al Snow. I was glad to see that, he didn't get injured. I mean, he said he's 59 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So, to go in there and go full bore. But it's like I saw this interview one time with Kevin Nash, and he was talking about the Hell in a Cell matches, and he was saying that that shit's crazy. You have no longevity with this kind of thing. And he's like, I'm 62 or something like that. He goes, I have 6 moves. He goes, I'm 62. I can still do my 6 moves.
Right.
He goes, but like falling off the top of cages, that's like a shortcut to not being able to do much for, very long. And so I was glad Al kept it simple.
Mm-hmm.
It just stomped that one guy and, went out there and looked like he had a little bit of fun.
I worked a show a couple years ago with Manny Hernandez, the Raging Bull.
Wow.
And he did a full match, and he said, the reason I can do this is I didn't take all those crazy bumps when I was younger, and I can still keep doing the stuff like I did. And he looked great. That he wrestled one of our younger guys, and he beat him up and made it look good. So
all right, I remember the Raging Bull. He was a fearsome character, man, back in the old NWA days, National Wrestling Alliance. The days of Flair and Wahoo and all those guys. Tough motherfucker.
Yeah.
Eric, did you have a favorite character for the show?
I mean, I loved Al. My favorite part about Al is when they're giving Al all these ideas, and he's just got that stone kind of mixture of just a stone pissed off
We're
look.
not
He's like,
doing
really?
that, yeah.
You're wasting my fucking time. It's not going to happen. I got to make sure the lights stay on. I mean, I love, again, through the deathmatch stuff, I loved Amazing Maria. But what I liked how she was kind of not just the mom character, but I loved how all she had to do to keep it going, kind of like Al's assistant behind the scenes. I liked Cash Flow, but what I liked about him is when he was younger in the deathmatch stuff, he was this asshole heel, and now he's like this big Papa Bear, like locker room leader. You know what I mean? And I thought that was cool how everyone respected him. And when he's got to give, the speech of, when the one guy was arrested, he's basically saying, "Don't fuck up because it's going to affect everybody." You could tell they were listening to him and respecting him.
Yeah. And
one thing I liked about Hollywood is, sure, a lot of the stuff she did, with the trailer trash stuff and smoking weed in front of everybody, like she didn't give a shit after the guy got arrested, type of thing. She's very smart in the business, because what I liked about her, and I got to give her some respect, is she didn't care if she came off looking like a fool in the ring. You know what I mean? When she lost the hair versus hair match, and she was going to run away, and it was her idea to turn around and knock herself out by walking into the ring post. She wasn't afraid to look like a fool.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that about her a lot.
It was, it wasn't quite. I think the problem with Al's difficulty is that he's managing a lot of young people.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Federation. Most of those people seemed very young. The older people like Cash Flow, the Rev, the black guy, he was very settled. He seemed very mature. These sorts of, but then you had just a bunch of young loose cannons. Al seemed like he was able to pick very well his heavyweight champion with Sarah, because Sarah didn't seem very, unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
He was professional, and he was dependable. He really tested him when he asked him to drop the belt.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell he didn't want to do it,
right.
But he's a professional, and then I can chase this guy, and then get the belt back. And then unfortunately he injures his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So he's out for a while, but I think that was kind of Al's difficulty, dealing with a lot of young, sort of hothead personalities.
And you can tell Al's definitely, he's set in his ways. He's been doing this 30 plus years. You know what I mean? He knows what it's like to tell a story. He knows what it's like to be a struggling, performer, because he really didn't get big. I mean, if you count ECW, but that was like number 3 in the big 3. He really didn't get, in my opinion, to be a big name until he came back to WWE and started teaming with Mick Foley. You know what I mean? Then he was on weekly TV and in all the funniest fucking vignettes. You know what I mean? Because Al's super smart. He's super witty, and he knows how to make you have a great match, but also, get a chuckle out of him. You know what I mean? He's not afraid to poke fun at himself.
I thought that, and I saw it when I think in the last episode or the 6th episode, they do some flashbacks to Al's career.
Mm-hmm.
And Al, I think part of what put him over, and, Jay, maybe you could speak to this a little bit, is the power of the guys on the mic.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
like Lawler's just laying into him like what an idiot he is, and this, that, and the other. And I mean, all that stuff helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you got to definitely have the wrestling ability, but you have the mic skills, and you have to be not afraid to, make yourself look stupid sometimes out there. Sometimes it's just saying that one little thing, and it's a catchphrase that goes off after that.
Yeah,
and,
look at Austin. Yeah, Austin 316 wasn't planned, and then they had signs the very next day.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a beautiful Bobby Eaton.
Oh wow!
Great wrestler, but he's shy, and he's not a good talker. That's why he always had a manager, because he just didn't have that talking skill. And I mean, I worked a match where he was the manager, and he jumps up on the ring, to distract me, and he says, "Hey, Mr. Referee, blah 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 blah." Blah blah blah. Bobby, give me something to work with here. I mean, that was just he
distracted you. It worked. I mean,
Yeah, so he had to work a different way than Al and these guys that could get out there and do that little extra bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it saves the money. You don't have to pay for a manager too. So,
I mean, sheesh. I mean, Al. Al may have been my favorite.
Yeah.
Al may have been my favorite. I liked pretty much everybody, actually.
Yeah.
Like I know you didn't like Holly's boyfriend.
I couldn't stand that fucker. Just how condescending he was. I get it's the beginning of the series. We got to kind of set the personas, and you don't talk to me that way. I'm going to get in your face. We're going to fight and all that. And then I'm sure it was the producer's idea to have him talking through the fucking car window. You know what I mean, and stuff like that.
What I thought was deliberate, perhaps, but by the showrunners, was to have him talking all that shit in like an old Toyota.
Mm-hmm.
It like summed up his whole character right there.
Yeah.
This guy talking all this shit, causing trouble, having a relationship in the locker room, all these difficulties. I mean, Holly takes responsibility for that too, and he's driving like an old Toyota Tercel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he was like 20 years older than Hallie, so it
Mm-hmm.
also came off as I'm this older guy in his old beat up car, and I want to be better.
Yeah,
I'm never gonna be there. And here's my girlfriend.
I still want to be young like these guys, type of thing. That's what I got. And then eventually, he was getting really jealous of her success. Going to WoW and stuff like that.
Yeah. Why is she going and not me?
Yeah.
Because he said he'd been doing it for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
He was a 20-year veteran at that point, but he still cut his hair and like he's cutting his beard like he's
25 and he's on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, like he's some high school kid.
Yeah.
He didn't like, you would think a 20-year vet would be someone more like cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he's not.
Right.
And even if he is, they're both adults, so you date who you want, and it's legal. No one's hurting anybody.
Right.
But then be more of a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't. He didn't really come off like that at all.
He came off
as a jerk.
A jerk, and like I said, with the jealousy, a lot of times the competitor. You know what I mean? To Holly.
I think it was like cash flow, and the Rev came out. We're old. We know we're not going to go any further. We're content where we're at. He was in the same boat, but like, no, I'm not content. I'm better than everybody else. So.
Yeah. I loved the cash, and I was hoping that at the end of the series they would have something that said what happened to each person. I was hoping that, because like one girl that they barely focused on ended up going to AEW.
Yep.
At the very end, and you're like, well, wait a minute, we've seen her for maybe 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one who ends up going to AEW. It was like, wait, what? So I had hoped that maybe Cash Flow was going to be one of those people who got picked up by AEW, because he's like a 20-year deathmatch veteran.
Yeah.
And he's like, finally, my body just said, no, we're not doing this anymore. Let's start to get into some. Okay, so OVW. Here's someplace that has steady wrestling, and I can be an authority figure of sorts, a respectable authority figure, I just, he's there with his son and his father and his wife, and when he said he was going to AEW Dark, I'm like, yeah, come on, man, tell me that you're gonna you're gonna get picked up, and hopefully it'll happen for him. He seemed like a really good guy.
Yeah, I think this will help a lot of those people just get notoriety, even if it's just on the indies. You know what I mean? They might look to Cash Flow. Hey, now, and that could be a good selling point for a lot of these indie feds. Hey, Netflix is, Cash Flow or something like that.
Yeah,
it could bring in non-wrestling fans, because I know a lot of people that don't like wrestling, but they like watching the behind-the-scenes stuff. Putting together the show, and I guarantee you that would bring in a lot of people just to have the chance to see someone like him in action, or maybe meet and get a picture with him.
Well, their social media presence is probably going to get a lot bigger. I started following Holly and Cash Flow and some of these people on Instagram and on X, on Twitter. And so, you get the name out there, and you get the word out there. Oh, okay, I know who you are now. So, okay, I'm interested in seeing what you're going to do. Oh, well, okay, there's an OVW, pay-per-view. Okay, well, yeah, sure, I'll spend $15.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Not a problem because, thanks to Eric, you get introduced to these independent federations and, you see these guys that are doing their damnedest. And I mean, a lot of times, I hate to say, well, I don't hate to say it, but a lot of times we'll be watching something like Backlash.
Yeah.
Or something on WWE, and we're just like, what the hell is going on here?
Well, we were watching, and that's what I'm glad you got that app, Mike, because you can tell that I think the fans appreciate the indie federations more because it's not all about the fucking spectacle. Yeah. Like I remember the last time you and I watched a pay-per-view together, we were wondering why is it taking 10 minutes for Seth Rollins to actually wrestle because we have to listen to the crowd sing his theme song.
Stupid song.
Stuff, it kills the moment. We were ready. You could tell me and you we were both getting agitated. We're like, get to the fucking match.
Yeah.
And you could tell that with stuff like WWE and to a lesser extent AEW, it's all about the spectacle. The look of it, and the work can come later. When you're an indie fed and you don't have the money for that, you gotta have everything in the ring, but still have that interaction and have the fans come back. So I think there's more effort put into an indie federation.
And I think that's part of the negative byproduct of not really having to compete.
Mm-hmm.
You just feel that you can take it in whatever direction that, you want to. And it feels like this flabby, sort of overproduced kind of thing. Oh, we're going to watch these four guys. I don't even know who the tag team champions are that always fight the Usos.
Oh, it was Kevin Owens and
like I'm like, really, I'm gonna watch them fight again.
Mm-hmm.
Again. Like the only person I'm interested in watching is Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, because she goes out there, she doesn't have a flash entrance, she beats the shit out of him, she goes home.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about why is Bianca Belair?
Only reason.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not the only reason.
But we were wondering why is Bianca Belair coming out, in this 10-minute entrance, and then she literally has like maybe a 4-minute match. When the entrance is longer than the match, what's the point?
Who gives a shit about her whipping her hair? Like what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And sometimes the little vignettes that they run before the matches are longer than the matches, or more interesting. So it's like.
Yeah, and I mean, now they're saying The Rock versus Roman Reigns in WrestleMania 40. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? But this is the problem with not having any competition. It's like that book, The Myth of Capitalism. Like everything is just every specific, market is just dominated by a couple of companies, one or two companies.
It was cool at the time because it was like. Excuse me, like 2001. You know what I mean? Vince buying WCW. That was a big deal. But then when you realize that, I think that was a bad idea because now you have nothing to push you to do better.
Yep.
You need that competition to push you to do better. And Vince has been on top for so long before TNA came out, before AEW. Like there's no point. They will never get to an equal level.
No, the gap is too vast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did he just sell it for? Like $8 or $9 billion?
Yeah,
something like that. To that company, Encompass, or that company that owns UFC now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, but I don't feel that's where the action is. The action is in these indie federations.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be. I mean, don't misunderstand me. I want to see wrestlers grow and have the opportunity to make money, make more than gas money. Right. But and all the wrestling looks the same. The train because they're all. I guess they're all training out of the same camps or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, so you don't get the variety of wrestlers. I mean, a lot of them are. It's almost like cookie cutters coming out. That you go to indies, you got the big fat guys and the guys that are so little and skinny that they're never going to make it to WWE, but they put on a hell of a show too. So I think you get more of a variety at the independent shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There are a couple of people that I enjoy watching. I still enjoy watching Brock, because he's Brock. Gunther, and Rhea.
Yeah.
That's because they're just rough contact, stiff, kind of wrestling. So, what the hell? But I mean,
the one thing I wanted to say was, with that show is the good promotions, they will sort of look 6 months out to be where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Then they build the story backwards. Who's going to be the champion? Who's they're going to be fight? You just can't throw a guy in and say, okay, you got a championship match tonight.
Right.
To build that whole angle and the like I said, the chase to get there.
That's what I liked about Alan, with him being so old school, is he wanted these stories and the matches to actually mean something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With like everything changing hands and the title, okay, this guy wins the title. Oh, he's going to lose it the next month and then the next month. It doesn't really matter. Who cares who's the champion? Because it's just, now it really is just something to look pretty on your shoulder. Remember back, in the days when we first started watching, Hogan was champion for 4 years. You know what I mean? Austin was champion for at least a year. Macho Man was champion for at least a year. It made the belt important, and then how many, you remember back in the day, these guys would feud for 6 months, not just, after 2 months, push your hands and move on to the next one. No, it makes it important. That chase to the title is important. Okay. You almost won. And then suddenly, you're counted out, but the ref doesn't see your foot on the rope. But referee's decision is final, so you lose. So
what?
Exactly. But see, that's all part of the show, because then maybe the next month the referee's going to get a little shit from the fans too. Don't mess this up. Keep your eyes open. And that's what's cool about these indie feds and these local fans, that are there. They know the stories. You know what I mean? We had a ref, who kept getting tired of getting beaten up by the wrestlers. He quit, air quotes, as a referee, but became a wrestler, and to prove his point that he's tired of getting kicked around type of stuff. And people knew that and cheered him on because they saw everything that had happened to him the previous month. And it made it important.
And that speaks to the loyalty and the love of the fans.
Mm-hmm.
They're even at the indie level, they're still following these stories.
Yep.
They're familiar. Go ahead, Jay.
I said, but the problem is when you get these stories that you've looked out for 6 months, then you get, injury, like their champ, dislocating shoulder. And then it's like all of a sudden, like, how are we going to change this and make it work and make it make sense that we've got a wrestler, Moondog Rover, that fan favorite. It's been wrestling for 36 years. We had this storyline built up, and he comes in the locker room last month and says, the doctors say that if I turn the wrong way, I could be paralyzed from the neck down.
Jeez.
But I'm going to wrestle tonight because we have to adjust the story to make sure. My wife doesn't want me to do it, but we're going to do it. So the guy he wrestled and me, we babied him in the ring. He did nothing, and we made the story work. And today he had 3 cervical vertebrae fused today. But he still says that November would be his 37th year in the business. And he wants to come back and do one more match. And we said, we don't know if he said, I don't know if my doctor will let me do it, but if there's a 1% chance, we do it. And this one guy says, I'll put you over. We'll make it work. But adjust the storyline. But these guys are so dedicated to the business.
That also brings up a difficulty in that these smaller federations have very thin benches.
Yeah.
They don't have like he brings in James Storm. Al brings in James Storm. This big name independent heavyweight. People know, oh shit, this guy's here tonight. All right, that's this is going to be a fight. And then Shera gets injured, and he has Shera drops the belt. But now Storm can't fight because Al doesn't have another heavyweight.
Right.
Yeah.
To link into a story with this guy. So now, without meaning to, he sort of, had to take the heavyweight title off of the story, out of the creative, it's just that's one of the drawbacks, in that, he's got a couple guys, and, if one of them gets hurt, it impacts everything. There's only 3 legs on that bar stool. You need all 3 of them.
Yeah, it's tough. Like this, the last show me and my daughter went to, the promoter had like 2 or 3 people back out last minute, literal cancellations. So you had their heavyweight champion. He had to wrestle twice. So there was 2 heavyweight title matches. You had one guy wrestling twice. You had one other guy wrestling a singles match and a tag team match. But they made it flow so well that the fans didn't care. But there's those times when we're like, hey guys, 5 of my wrestlers didn't show up. You guys are doing double or triple duty.
Yeah.
And it's up to the promoter. I already paid this guy. You're gonna make the same amount of money for 2 matches type of thing. And then what if a wrestler says screw you? So there's so many things that goes on behind the scenes with that you have to work on the fly and roll with the punches and stuff like that.
Yeah, you'll get where, okay, you guys are going to do a single match, you guys are doing a single match, and then we're going to have like a run-in or something. So now we got to have a tag team with a combination of the guys get that. Or it's like, anybody got a mask that they can work another angle? We've got one guy that he's worked 3 times in one show. It's 3 different characters. So
Mr. Wrestling 7, So Jesus Christ, get him in there. Let me ask you guys this. What was your opinion on Holly going to WOW? Because she clearly, Holly was very clear about what she was into. People, she's like, my boyfriend wants to be a star. I want to do this to make money. It's very transactional. She has relationships. She loves everybody in the locker room, but her thing is transactional. So, what did you think about her sort of ditching and just, hey, I got an offer to do something else. I'm going to take it, and I'll see you in a week.
I was all for it because we've talked to Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash says that's what the most important thing is, making money. Getting your name out there. And if you think about it, I don't remember the whole conversations, but she has to make money. She has to get her name out there because you can't always be like cash flow and do it for 20 years. You know what I mean? You got to build that nest egg too. What if she gets sick and tired of being on the road, or she can't handle it, or she misses her son too much? You know what I mean? It's a good way to get that nest egg going, that savings. And again, you're doing this not to, keep a family going, in the business type of thing. You're there it's a very selfish business a lot of times. You're doing it for yourself. And the way she was looking at it, I think she made the right choice, because she's going to make more money. She's going to get more notoriety. And what if OVW closed its doors? Then she's out of a job. So she's actually thinking about the future.
Okay. All right. Jay, what did you think?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword that, she's got to do what's best for her and her family. And, while she's going to have a better chance of moving up to the next level. And I'm sure they were paying her more money to, go out there for a week or 2 weeks to shoot those things. But then you also get to, the loyalty that Al Snow has kept her there and groomed her and do that. And, is there some way where she can do both or help, not walk away? And if she walks away, is Al Snow going to let her come back if WOW doesn't want her that? So you get this, this torn loyalty and in what's good for you and what's good for everybody else. And we've seen that where, guys are in a locker room and they'll say, oh, this other place is offering me, an extra $50 to work the show. Can you match it? And they're like, well, now we're not going to get in the bidding war. If you're going to bet against us, you're out of the locker room. We'll find somebody else to take your spot. So it's a strange world. It's a strange world we live in.
That's a tough space. OVW is like we started out saying 30 minutes ago, OVW is basically paying you in gas money. And then someone offers you, she's like 21, 22. She's got a son. She's got a child to take care of. She's bartending at some hotel or something like that. An opportunity to go out to LA for a week, know, and, they're going to build a story around her. And, she's maybe got to work one night, this kind of thing. I didn't necessarily, I understood Al's predicament, but at the end of the day, it seemed like no one was really making any money. It was one of the few things that, and I think that's just a reality. It was one of the few things that the documentary never really resolved. You know,
Right.
that people start to, you know, make money out of this. It didn't. You know, at best, it looked like they were trying to break even and not start to like fire people, like the one guy, Matt. You know, you're not going to get fired. Okay, we're not going to have to pull the Thursday shows, that sort of thing. But yeah, I didn't find any fault with the girls. But you know, like you said, it's you know, it's not like it has no impact on OVW.
But it's
You know,
also
that
like
kind
one
of
of those. It's one of those situations. You know, what if us just in regular, you know, non-wrestling life or however, you know, you get that opportunity where you can really make a good living for yourself, and you turn it down. You don't know if you'll ever get that second chance at it too. You know what I mean?
And especially if what you know, what Rod said is true, and that, you know, she is starting to get some notoriety, you know, and other, you know, big federations are looking at her. You know, she get your face out in as many places as possible. You know, it doesn't last forever.
Yeah,
you know, she's not going to be young forever. You know,
Yeah.
she's not going to be, you know, 21 or 22 forever. You know, before long, you know, and then the injuries are going to start, and you know, these sorts of things. So, you know, she's got to strike while it's hot.
Oh, the wrestler I interviewed a couple of weeks ago, you know, he takes any booking he can get because you never know when you're when the match tomorrow could be your last match because you never know. So you gotta get your name out. You know, you know, you can't turn down so many jobs when you're on the indie circuit because you got to keep people talking.
I mean, look at it. She's like 2 years younger than Ripley.
You
know, and look at the distance.
Yeah,
you know, between the two. And she seemed to really have some good physical ability. She had good presence. She had good mic skills.
She had great interaction. Like one of my favorite moments in the whole series, it's when her and Amazing Maria are confronting each other, and Maria gets pissed off at her, and she shoves her. And, you know, the way Holly looks at her mom and she starts, you know, pouting her lips. And then Al's like, yes, she did the boo-boo face, you know, stuff like that. It's just, you know, I don't know if she think that was on the fly or part of the relationship she's having with Maria, but it's stuff like that. She knew what to do at that exact moment.
Well, it seemed like they were tapping into like some real life psychology there. You know, because she does have some resentments there with Maria. And, you know, Maria, you know, they're, you know, one's kind of a younger version of the other one.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just like, okay, you know, we can make use of this, this kind of thing.
Well, that's what a good wrestler does is they take their own personality and amp it up 10 times.
Yep.
Yeah. And it seems like, you know, that's what they did. And it worked. So, I mean, if anybody out there, you know, except from Cash Flow, I would, you know, that really stuck out. You know, I would love to see Cash Flow get to AEW or something like that, or, you know, God, you know, WWE one day, you know, that'd be like a, you know, a dream come true. But her, but again, you know, wasn't the one girl made it to AEW and they didn't spend any time talking about her at all. I was like, okay, that's ironic, you know, just.
They can't do whatever they're looking for. You know, AEW say, well, we've got enough blondes here. We need a
brunette.
I loved Freya. I started following Freya on IG, where she's doing that skit where she's manipulating the referee.
Oh, I love that stuff.
I love that story.
Was hilarious.
I love that story. And the guy just comes in and he's all nerded out.
He's just a buffoon.
You know?
But then he got the revenge at the end.
Yes.
The referees.
Out there representing all the disrespected referees out there.
Yeah,
you know,
I was wondering, he did that 3 count so fast but so hard.
Oh, man. And she's like 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just like, holy shit, she's just a monster, man. But I mean, you know, there are so many. The market is just saturated, it seems, for what we're seeing on the independent circuit, what we're seeing here. The market is saturated with young talent.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would like to see is one of these other, or many of these federations get. I don't need to see. I wouldn't, in a perfect scenario for me, I don't need them to go to AEW. I don't need them to go to WWE. I'd love to see some of these other promotions grow.
Yep.
and start to be able to provide real competition. Because once you head out to Stanford, you know what's going to happen. AEW seems like it's got some trouble right now. The lunatics are in charge of the asylum or whatever. I don't think Tony Khan. I don't know what's going on with that.
I think Tony Khan's just a little in over his head at the moment.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I get the person. The wrestlers are kind of running the show there. But what I would like to see is to get back to maybe where we were in the 90s, or maybe even the late 80s. Where we had just these big regional promotions.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. I would love to see that. I would love to see, promotions grow bigger. And then, have other promotions be able to have other options, of where their wrestlers could grow if they, sort of outgrow and, it's time to fly the nest. There'd be more than two options. That would just be great.
And that is one. Go ahead, Jay.
As a part of it's just the promotions have to sort of work with each other sometimes. We've got I worked for two different promotions that one always ran the second Saturday a month, the other one was the third Saturday a month, and the promoters got in a fight and one decided they were both going to run the second Saturday a month. Well, fans were going to both shows, and now they had to pick, and the one I stayed with, we're sellout standing room only. The other show is getting maybe like 50 a night.
Wow.
Like, go back to the third Saturday. Stop this bickering and let the fans enjoy both places.
Yeah. And you can all make some money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can all make some money instead of trying to cut somebody else out. You all share in the bank. That's what we should be getting to. I don't know if anybody saw this. Hogan was on Rogan about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Did you see the interview?
I saw bits and pieces of it. Yeah.
Well, he was talking about how, like, Vince promised his dad that he wouldn't break the handshake deals that the father had with other regional promotions, and the minute he took it over, he was just like, I'm sending you out here to these, these other promotions, and, you're going to go out there. And he said, Vince stayed at home. It was the other wrestlers out there. And he was talking about how, like, Harley Race pulled a gun on him. And it was just like, I ought to fucking kill you, Hogan. He said, he told this story about he got there and he got to the arena and they said, Harley Race was here and he was waving a gun around saying he's going to kill you. So he's like, oh, okay. And he said, well, I'm just going over to the bar across the street. I'm not hanging around here. So he said he goes over and, he's having some drinks, had a bottle of wine or something like that. And he goes back to the promotion and he said he goes back to the arena and he has to go to the bathroom and he's on the toilet. Like, he's sitting on the toilet, like taking a dump. And he said, Davey Boy Smith comes running in and he goes, Harley Race is back. And he's got a gun, and he said he's going to kill you. He said he ran out. He said he just pulled his pants up, like he didn't even have a chance to wipe his ass. He pulled his pants up and went to run, and he ran right into him. And he said he literally had a gun, and he goes, Hogan, I ought to fucking kill you. He goes, but I'm a businessman. So this thing that Vince has done, took a good 30 years. To achieve this thing that he's now sold for $8 billion, but maybe it was better the way it was before, where you had an AWA, where you had an NWA, where you had a Mid-South, where you had Florida, where you had these other promotions. And hey, guess what? We're going to send you up to Vince for a year. I'm going to loan you out there, and then you come back and, we're going to, send Roddy Piper down to Florida, for a year and to do these sorts of things because, the wars were great, but now that the war is over with, we're just, it seems like I have more interest in the smaller things.
And what I like about, the indie feds is there's usually no contracts. There's usually is that handshake, like one of, because, my federation, Windy City Pro Wrestling, he doesn't really like to hire local talent like in the Chicago area. It's like one or two people. His former world champion is based out of Florida. He was trained by Gangrel. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So and then I had, their current champion is from like Rhode Island. But since they're on the Indies, they're wrestling, let's say, next month on the 21st, they're all wrestling for WCPW. But the following Saturday, they're going to leave Sycamore, Illinois, and one's going to go down to Florida, one's going to go to Rhode Island, one's going to go to Atlanta to keep the name going, because with that whole contract thing, you can wrestle anywhere you want, get that name out, and everybody can see you. And that's what I like. You're not just stuck in this one place. You know what I mean? You're held down.
It depends on your approach, because the group I work with now, the promoters got two rules. You don't work for another show in the same building, because we had a group trying to take it over.
Okay.
And you don't work another show the same day, because we were getting people that, we're going to be late. Can you push me back?
Right.
Show. So, I mean, we just didn't want that hassle. The other group, the one that moved over to us, the same nights, they put up a rule that you can't work within 25 miles of the promotion, because they don't want you going down the road and working for somebody and losing, which then makes you look weaker for an organization. So it's like, I'm working for 3 different shows and I can't work for the other 2, which I worked longer than you, because
right.
25 miles. And I said, I'm a referee. You make me look bad every night. So I'm not going to look worse going someplace else. So it's
right.
like, it just depends on the promoter's mentality. And I think
True.
That way he's thinking he's making his guys strong and he's bringing other people in. But at the same time, these other guys are going, and, the fans are smart enough to know, it's, if I go over here and I lose, it doesn't mean because that guy, it makes me weaker someplace else.
Right.
Stories that are out there.
Yeah, it could, because it's a story. But you can see why ego would get tied into it. But yeah, at the same time, it's.
Yeah. We'll see that. Like wrestling. I said, that's what I said about the whole intermission thing. My daughter, she's into it. She hates this guy because he beat up Damien and this and that. Intermission, she's slapping his hand and saying, "Good job. I love to boo you." They get when it's time to sit down and cheer and boo and hate this guy, but then they know they're just regular guys like us. You know what I mean?
But some promoters will say, I don't want any heels out selling stuff in the intermission, because you have to be the bad guy that the fans hate. We don't want you out. And the other one's like, just go out there, and they're smart enough to realize what's going on and sell your merch. I mean,
you have to give the fans more credit than that,
We have a guy that says the prayer at the end of every meeting before the show, and he always ends with, "And God, let everybody sell lots of merch."
That's where the money is, I guess. I remember cash flow. We got some t-shirts. I see you over there. You want to buy one of these t-shirts, don't you? He's trying to sell a little bit, and he ended up selling one. He's like, "You got an extra large? I think I got one more left." And he goes digging in his pile, that kind of thing. So,
well, you don't know what it's like. This, you don't know what they're making as a payday, but you sell something like $20 $20 a shirt. That's some good money in a night, especially if you have a good show and you're there afterwards, selling it after, let's just say you won, the heavyweight championship. A lot of those kids, a lot of those fans are going to want to buy your shirt at $20 a pop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I was surprised in the last episode, they actually showed the final match of Ric Flair.
Ooh.
I couldn't believe that they did it. I wasn't disappointed, but I mean, it was this, sort of reflection that Al was having, looking at arguably the greatest wrestler of all time, and possibly what his, wrestling at 72, and what his career could have been if he had made some different decisions, or had been a little more. I think, he didn't quite say it this way, but what if he had been a little more selfish?
Right.
I mean, could he have put himself into a world championship, sort of orbit? Could he? Because he was never really a title holder. I think he might have held some tag titles.
He held the tag belts with Mick a couple times. He was the hardcore champion. Who knows how many times? When it was a popular gimmick. I don't think he held anything in ECW, but it was. can count maybe on your hand how many times he's been a champion.
And then he talked about when he wrestled the two guys, they could really put himself over by beating the two jobbers, and then he let somebody put a bottle of Head and Shoulders in head, so he could have shoulders that he could pin. He's like, I let them do it when I shouldn't have done that because they just knocked me down. So
it was Jerry Lawler. It was Lawler. It was Lawler's. Lawler had this stupid idea, and I just went along with it.
Yeah, it was Brian
to have a good match. You know,
it was Brian Christopher. It was Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor. You know, Scotty Too Hottie, and against Al Snow and Head. You know, so basically a handicap match. And I think Lawler came up with the idea. He said, "This will be funny. You know, you can't pin Head, so I get the Head and Shoulders, shove it in, and then Brian Christopher pins Head. 1, 2, 3.
It's Lawler's son, so you get a little nepotism in there too. So,
yeah. You know, I like Lawler as a mic guy. I was never sure. I wasn't really a fan of his wrestling, or I'm not even sure I'm a Lawler fan. But you know, I liked this team with JR.
I liked him as a wrestler in Memphis, and I liked his stuff with Andy Kaufman. You know what I mean? The whole blur the lines type of stuff. But I kind of got tired of him and pushing 60, and he's still like, you know, the horny old teenager type of thing. That got a little
dirty old man. He became a dirty old man.
That's true.
Yeah, he was a dirty old man. So I mean, go ahead, Jay.
I think Lawler's still working matches. He's never going to give up until that heart stops again. So
yeah,
he ended up marrying that girl Kat, wasn't she? Was like 30 years younger than
they were married. Yeah, they were married for quite some time, but they split up a long time ago.
But then
I think she got too old for him.
Yeah, and then Honky Tonk Man is his cousin, and they both hate each other.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'm friends with Honky Tonk, and he's like, you never bring Lawler up with me. So
yeah, that's a very touchy subject. That even in shoot interviews, they know not to bring up Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
You know?
So I mean, in the final match, you know, Al comes out there and they use the old "if I win, I get 5 minutes alone," the old 5-minute gig, that old gimmick, which never fails to sell.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for that gimmick.
Yeah. And you know, Al's gonna get it. You know, and he gets his 5 minutes on this guy, you know, who's just completely, you know, having fun, you know, letting Al beat him up. You know, I love the radio interview to see Al on the mic.
When he was able to let loose a little bit and be a little insulting. Yeah, he's got a sharp fucking wit. That's the thing with Al.
Yeah. And he's still relatively healthy. I mean, well, he said, you know, he just got some new knees, and you know, he's dinged up. He's dinged up.
Well, there's a reason why he married a massage therapist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. But I mean, he seems to have come out of it relatively unscathed compared to some people. Angle was just on Rogan. And he was getting into it. I think he said he's broken his neck 5 times. I think he said Brock broke it 3 or 4 times. So, I mean, you know, that can't be good.
Right.
You know, and then all the issues with the Vicodin. I think it was said he was up to 65 Vicodin a day, extra 30 Vicodin a day. So, you know, he hasn't come out of it. Al hasn't come out of it too damaged. You know, you know,
I've never heard
I
never heard a in the news now, you know, type of thing with Al Snow. You know what I mean? I think Al's got a really good head on his shoulders, you know, when he was in the business as a worker.
Yeah. And, you know, I wish him the best. I wish this federation the best. You know, I'd love to see it rise and become competitive. You know, these guys deserve all of these. I mean, you know, they're not perfect people, but, you know, they're out there doing it every night, and they deserve better. They deserve better than what they're getting. You know, it's pretty selfless, you know, to put your body on the line like that. And, you know, I mean, even the guy who was doing the pain poppers, you know, he was, you know, or the popper or whatever what he was inhaling, you know, when he started to list through his injuries, you know, and these sorts of things, you're like, oh shit, yeah, this guy must be hurting, like, you know, quite a bit. So, you know, I hope that, you know, these independent federations can grow. to the point where we're just not stuck, on Mondays and Fridays and, whatever AEW is doing. That would be a good thing. That would be the best possible thing to me, the best possible outcome.
I just hope I know when it's time to hang up the boots. That I'm 60.
You can't count to 3 now, so I mean, shouldn't you have considered this some time ago?
I mean,
you're a little late.
I'm 63. I'm the oldest guy in the locker room, and the women's champion was supposed to spear me last month. And she's like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. And I was like, I just got back from Japan. You're not going to hurt me. Give it all to me.
God. That's the one thing that has improved, I think, in terms of professional wrestling, probably over the past 20 years the most. The rise of women wrestlers, the athleticism, the strength.
It's not just about the looks.
Yeah, I mean that was
talent.
something Maria brought up, that they were just kind of like, they showed Stacy Keibler, getting her pants ripped off, and then Tori Wilson, and these sorts of things, that they were kind of sex objects. And I wasn't complaining about that, but at the same time, when you look at it today, and I saw that match, I remember at WrestleMania, I think, between Ripley and Charlotte Flair. I was like, holy shit.
Oh, God, that was hard hitting, dude.
Just fucking insane. You're like, holy shit, this is just batshit crazy. The women's wrestling has come a long way. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I worked the match with this one woman that she's a little thing, and twice I've seen her like almost, I think, get killed in the ring, where she's like in the ring going and gasping. I'm like, you talk to me, you tell me something, or I'm stopping this match. Like, no, I'm okay, and just gets up and just got up, and they did another power bomb on her, and like luckily it was a 3-way, and she was going to win, and I said, get your ass out of here. You're not dying while I'm in the ring. Those guys, those women wrestlers, they've got a point to prove, and they just get out there and do everything.
All right. Is there anything about this series that we missed that you would like to address? Jay?
I was just when it was over already. I mean, I could have gone for another, 6 or 7 episodes with it. That I think the good point I liked was when they showed, when they were doing like the spot shows where they've got 10 people in the audience, and that just shows what these wrestlers do. They go out there and they put on a whole show. They're not holding back or anything, whether it's 10 people or 10,000 people out there. It's just the dedication and the work that these guys put in to entertain.
I love that one time that they put up. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't know if you saw my Facebook thing when I was in Japan. I tracked down Killer Khan.
Yes.
Yeah. I sent Eric the pictures.
Yes, that was awesome.
And he a little bitty hole in the wall restaurant, has like 12 seats in there, and he was gonna pay for my. He gave me a free beer, which I said okay, and then I got some food and got t-shirt, and he wasn't gonna charge me anything, and I said no. I'm paying you for all the years of entertainment you gave me and all the pain and suffering you put your body through. I want to thank you for that. And he actually, a little tear come down his face. But I mean, that's the way we should look at the wrestlers out there. They're out there putting their ass on the line every night just to entertain us. And maybe for them to get higher, but it's to entertain us.
That's the perfect thing to say. Like, I am a fan of the deathmatch wrestling. I know I actually liked that, how Al Snow was so against Maria and Holly to have one. And theirs was a little, air quotes, more simple than the usual stuff out there, but it's still one accident. It's all weapons and stuff. And I went to a show in Chicago, and I was trying to get out of my bubble, kind of finally introduce myself to the wrestlers. And I'm wearing Dr. Redacted right now. And I introduced myself to him, and he's one of the crazy ones, take that how you want. But I met him like during the autograph stuff, before the show. And again, he's just like us. And I'm like, man, I really appreciate what you guys do for our entertainment. You know what I mean? And you could tell he was legitimately touched. You know what I mean? Because say what you will about that type of wrestling or catch as catch can't stand or, high flying stuff, injuries happen. You know what I mean? And they are really, and yourself, Jay, and the referees too, you're a big part of the show. What you guys do to your body for our entertainment, I grew to appreciate it a lot more as I've gotten into the local federations, the bigger name indie stuffs like on IWTV. And like I said, it's not a lifestyle for everybody. And you've heard all the stories, the horror stories, the sad stories. And it's like, you guys are doing this for our entertainment, for our money. And you're going to make us, feel like we weren't ripped off. And that's one thing I think is really cool when you see someone go out and work in front of 10 people the same way they would work out in front of 50 and in front of 100 and so on. So, and I think that's if you don't like the wrestling, like wrestling at all, I still think people should watch this docuseries to grow an appreciation, to see the behind the scenes stuff of what it takes to put on a wrestling show,
right?
Not just getting in the ring, 1, 2, 3, and then going home type of stuff. So that's what I recommend when it comes to this docuseries.
It is really good stuff. I thought it was honest.
Yeah,
I thought it was honest. And there probably some people would like that guy would not like to go down in history as the guy on the Netflix documentary who got arrested for, so on and so forth, or the dark side guy probably not one. When he looks at it, he's like, that's a shitty car I'm sitting in. They put me in this, car for 7 episodes, this sort of thing. But
I guarantee both of them have picked up bookings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This guy is seen on Netflix.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's a boost. It's a boost. And I think Eric was saying maybe next, if it's a hit, maybe they'll come back and look at another promotion next year.
I think it would be cool. I do wish there was
come back to OVW and see where they're at a year later.
I do agree with Jay though. I wish there was a few more episodes, maybe 10 instead of just the 7 or something. Just because I watched it and that entire weekend it came out. You know what I mean? Like Jay, we within 2 days we were done. You know what I mean? And then we're like, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more would have been fun. Like maybe 3 or 4 more episodes.
I had no complaints about any of it. No complaints. Thoroughly entertaining, engrossing. Like I was interested in what was happening to all of these people. Some people got a little more exposure. Some people got a lot of exposure. But yeah, there was no. I was like, okay, I can't wait for this to be over. Or can we move on to the next thing? Netflix did a really, really good job with this, and I think they had really, really interesting material. When you just got a bunch of people that do this crazy thing who are not geared, like I said, for 9 to 5 work. And if they probably weren't doing this, I think Al said this, they'd be in jail, or something like this. So this is their outlet to, be creative, and, they're doing it with their bodies. And so, I have the highest respect for that. And I hope that they all, achieve success because they all deserve it. All right. Jay, do you have anything you want to plug or anything, any content? You don't do any.
No. If you're in St.
Louis. Wait. No. Tell people where they can find you at your next wrestling show.
If you're in St. Louis, the second Saturday of every month, it's MMWA, Mid-Missouri Wrestling Alliance at South Broadway Athletic Club. Come on down there. And then in Costa Rica, I send a Facebook happy birthdays to all the wrestlers there. And one contacted me last week and said, next time you're in Costa Rica, can you work a match? And I said, yeah. And then he said, I talked to the promoter. He wants you to work the whole show. And can you do a seminar before? So I like, me? Okay. Hope someone can translate for me. But
you can teach everybody to count to 2.
Yeah.
Uno, dos. Dos, can you say dos? You're hired. All right.
Yeah. So if you're in Costa Rica, the 3rd and 4th week of January, hook me up.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. That's fantastic. Spreading the word, spreading the word, spreading the love out there. It's all good. Eric, anything you want to plug?
Sure. Since this is the wrestling episode, we'll do a couple of things. First, I do want to plug my local federation, Windy City Pro Wrestling. Their next show will be next month, October 21st. It's a Saturday, Sycamore, Illinois, Sycamore Community Center. Fantastic family-friendly show. Bring your kids. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, my daughter was against going the first time, and now she's been to 4 or 5 shows, and she looks forward to it every time. You can Google Windy City Pro Wrestling. They're on X. They're on Facebook. They're on YouTube. And speaking of that, Hey Internet, Eric here is my YouTube channel, and I'm actually going to plug the interview I had with a Windy City Pro Wrestling wrestler, Gavin Alexander. That's in my feed. You just have to search for it. And it was a great hour and 15 minutes. Gavin is a 21-year veteran, the Chicago and Indianapolis area, trained by Tracy Smothers. If you know Tracy Smothers, I know he's worked with Cowboy Bob Orton a few times. He's been everywhere. Lots of really good word association we did. We talked about Vince McMahon. We talked about shows like this. We talked about his thoughts on Tracy, the deathmatch wrestling like Mickey Knuckles. And then we had some fun word association, like, it's your last meal. What are you going to have for your last meal type of stuff, pulling the curtain back a little bit. So interview with Gavin Alexander is what I'm going to promote.
All right. Sounds good. I wish there was an opportunity. I have to figure out once my schedule starts to regulate and get a little less frenetic these days, I'm going to have to find a way to put more regular wrestling content onto the show. I don't know what, though. Maybe I will select out of IWTV a federation to follow. Mm-hmm. There are so many on there, you kind of get lost in the forest.
Yeah, I'd usually just stick with 1 or 2 and then go from there.
Yeah, and so maybe I'll do something like that. Jay, tell me again the name of your federation. Maybe it's I don't think it's on there.
It's Mid Missouri Wrestling Alliance, or MMWA.
MMWA. Okay.
Out of St. Louis. So.
I'll have to give them a look up on social media. I'm sure they have a Facebook page or an X page or something like that, and see what's going on. For this channel, we will be back tomorrow, not covering wrestling. We're going to be getting back to horror with an interesting flick, to say the least. Voldemir Johansson's Swedish, it's an Icelandic flick called Lamb, which is, it probably plays more like a Grimm's fairy tale or a piece of Greek mythology. But they decided to make it into a movie, and it's an interesting film. I thought it was a great movie, but we'll see what happens when we get the panel in here to discuss it.
All I'm going to say is I will be here tomorrow. I'm going to finish the movie tonight. I started it late, so I did not text you because you're an hour ahead of me. And I went in blind like you asked me, and when I got to, we'll just say the reveal at about 38 minutes in, I said, I'm not drunk enough to finish this tonight. Mike, what did you get me into? But
we're not done yet.
I know that. That's why I stopped it at 38 minutes. But I will say this: I'm very interested. I'm enjoying what I've seen so far. So I can't wait to finish it tonight.
My strongest advice that keeps you blind, and this is the way that I did it, because I actually did a watch along on this channel for that movie, and I had something blanking out I had an overlay blacking out the screen. If you can, use headphones.
I am.
Because the sound from the mountains and the music are themselves a character.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I just watched it again on my television set, and it didn't have the same impact.
I'm watching on the laptop with the headphones.
Sounds good. All right, that's it for this episode. We went a good 90 minutes. My thanks to Jay, the ref, kind enough to stop in once again. We'd love to have you back on when we get to some more wrestling. The next thing, if you ever have a suggestion, let me know. because these things are sort of catch can. We had you on once for an interview, but this was something, to sort of, congregate around again. So I'd love to do it sooner rather than later.
Sounds good.
All right, and my thanks to Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here. I will see you again tomorrow.
Yes,
my
you
thanks
will.
to everybody in the chat, and we will see you all in the next live stream. And be nice to each other. All right.
Cheers.
Have a good one.